Okay, welcome to the semi-sages of the pages. Now, getting critiques are a big part of your writing journey. So we thought we'd take an episode to talk about the 5 worst critiques you can possibly get. And I want to start this off by saying we've all done this to other people. So sorry. But we've gotten a lot better at doing critiques over time. So we wanted to talk about some of, frankly, the mistakes that we've made to some of our authors and some of our friends and some of our co-authors so that you don't make those mistakes. Okay. So our first one, don't you hate it when people rewrite your story into their style or their tone or their voice?
I really hate this one. This is like one of my big pet peeves, honestly, because I can appreciate when someone has grammar advice for me. And I can appreciate I misplaced a comma. I needed a different word. I could have had a more powerful verb, I passive voice, things like that. I can appreciate that. What I don't appreciate is when you open your draft and you see a bunch of crossed out lines, like a whole paragraph of crossed out lines, and they've just rewritten your whole section. And it's not your voice anymore. They rewrote it how they wanted to see it, which doesn't help me fix it in my method, in my way. I don't know why they didn't like it. So it doesn't help me fix it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so frustrating, especially when it's like you're something that you really like and you're attached to it and like you see potential. And instead of having a dialogue about how you can make what you had better, which is what we try to do in our first pages. So if you get frustrated about critiques and you want to get we'll try to give you the best critique you can submit to us, because we do something called the even better if model. And in the even better if model, we would engage in a dialogue about, well, this is maybe how you can make it stronger. But when people just cross it out and rewrite it for you, they're basically like negating. It feels like you give them a gift and they're like, no, do it like this, And instead of working with what you have, it feels like very deep rejection, I think.
Yeah.
What
the phrase is throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh yeah.
Right? It feels like that. It's like, okay, I guess you didn't like any of it. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think Molly said it exactly right. When you look at the page and it is all entirely lines through, that's when there's problems. Yeah. Okay. How about moving on to number 2?
Number 2.
Okay. How about feedback that doesn't understand your story or your genre? And I have one for this one. So you guys all know I write romance. Romance is formulaic. I'm sorry, it is. It is what it is. It typically is they meet, they fall in love. There may be some, tension there, that type of thing. They're going to fall in love. There's going to be a fight. They're probably going to break up, fight, consider breaking up. Something's going to happen. Somebody's going to do something. They're going to realize they love each other. And then they're going to reunite for a happily ever after or a happily for right now.
And they better, I'm not reading your romance.
Exactly. Yeah. That is the formula. So when people that don't understand the genre say, I don't like it that they broke up. Sorry. That is the genre.
Yeah.
That's how we pull up the climax.
Right. Another one here is like, if you're trying to impart the whole point of you wrote this book is you want to inspire, young girls to get into science and engineering. And then someone were to read your story and go and say, I liked it, but for me, it would have worked better if they were artists. Like,
do you remember the one I got on my Rome book? Oh my God. So I have like a YA book, and it's historic fiction, and it's based on Rome. And I had an agent say, I would love to agent this. I just need you to rewrite it so there's no slavery in it.
I remember. And that's a whole, like, it's a theme. Like, it's a that would fundamentally, like, not be the book that you had written.
Right?
Well, and there were slaves in ancient Rome. Yes, that was bad. It was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. However, historically, it happened.
And my
So
whole point was to like do a tribe that had never been talked about. So because they were enslaved and because they died off and so their voices were never heard. So, but she was just like, if it was fantasy, just rewrite it and make it fantasy. And it
take
just
out the
felt like
slavery.
I was like, I don't think you get why I did this.
Yeah. I was trying to highlight this historic thing.
Right.
So what's the point if I'm not doing
She
that
was
thing?
so sweet. She was like, your style's wonderful. We love it. You just got to get rid of the slavery thing, get rid of the Rome thing.
And turn it into a fantasy. I mean, let's negate the genre entirely. And while you're at it, just change all the characters' names and can you make it modern?
Right.
But let's do paranormal urban fantasy.
And
with that.
also, I didn't really connect with the first person. So if you could change it to third, that would be great.
Yeah.
Oh
that's
yeah,
really
that's a big one.
Okay, put in the comments right now the worst critique you've ever gotten about your books because they're going to be funny. And I guarantee you, put a comment if you're somebody who writes first person present or first person past, and you've had somebody read your book and try to get you to change it to third person. Because I don't know what it is about that, but everyone I know who writes first person has had at least one person try to tell them that they have to put it in third person. I think that's so weird.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right, ready to move on to number 3?
Tell me number 3.
All right, number 3 is the vague non-critique. It was good.
It was fine.
I didn't like it.
It just didn't gel with me.
Your
Nah.
voice was weird.
Or even, I just didn't warm to your voice.
Yeah, what
mean?
how am I
The
okay,
triggers.
cool. How am I supposed to fix it? Oh, you'll know how to fix it.
It was fine.
It was fine. Yeah, it just wasn't for me.
And this
Oh,
can work. You've
okay.
heard both. Like, people like, it wasn't for them, it was for them. Both are frustrating when you are trying to actively get feedback to be better. Like, I've had some beta readers where they read in the genre, there weren't writers, they hadn't given feedback before, but I was like, okay, cool, this will be great. I'll try it out. And they read my whole book, but then gave me back like their feedback, giving back. They read the whole like 300 pages and they were like, yeah, it was great.
I liked it.
And I was like, okay, those 300 pages you read and you don't have another thought in your head. Like, even if you do love something, be specific. That can be very helpful. Or specific on what you don't like. What's number 4, Teresa?
Well, before we move to number 4, you know what I think we should talk about? Our first page critiques. So we do this wonderful thing at the Semi-Sages of the Pages where you can submit your first page critique to us. We'll critique it on the air. We use the even better if model, and we'll give you real critiques. We'll tell you what we really like about it. We're very kind, and we'll offer some suggestions for improvements. So if you're at all interested, just go to www.semisagesofthepages.com, submit your first page, and maybe we'll read it on the air.
And we keep all our authors anonymous. You can check out one of our previous videos and get a feel for how we work.
Exactly. All right, now let's move on to number 4. So number 4, too in the weeds, giving detailed information that doesn't advance the plot or help really whatsoever with anything. And Morgan, you were laughing.
Yeah, don't let me read anything about horses. Because I'll just be like, well, this, and nothing that matters. Just like, I've gotten much better, but if you would have met me like 2 or 3 years ago and had me read anything with horses in it, because I just love them so much. And that's the thing I know about it, and I want to tell you all about it and how it would work. And it's very unhelpful. And so it's really interesting because early on I was given this advice, like you should always have an expert in your area read what you're doing, but I'm not sure that's always true. And you need to take that with a big grain of salt, because every time I've had people like read that were experts read for me, or I've been the expert read for other people, I think sometimes we can lose the forest for the trees. And so you have to be just a little careful with that, because then you have all this feedback that isn't actionable, or like you said, doesn't really help. And we had a friend, and I read hers and gave her way too much information about horses in a fantasy world. Poor girl. And I'm so sorry.
I think we've all
Well,
done it. Not
and
the horses specifically, but
oh, we've all done that. But what can inadvertently happen is that then the author goes, "Oh, I should include this information,"
Yes.
and then includes it, and it's too much. It's too in the weeds. As I said before, it doesn't advance the plot at all. And you really run the risk of either the reader closing the book, or you having a future beta reader or editor being like, you too much. You don't need all this information.
Why did
It's
you talk about
boring."
horses for a bait?
yeah, I didn't need to know that. I mean, another way, if you're thinking maybe this doesn't apply to you, so it applies to me in a slightly different way. Like I can sometimes just get just the blinders on looking at something, and then suddenly like it's one sentence that they had, or two sentences, or a paragraph. And for me, there's like some sort of continuity error, or there's like some logic error or something in there, and I just can't get off of it. And I'm just like comment after comment after comment after comment. And I've now left 30 comments about how like it doesn't make sense. You said earlier that blah, blah, blah was happening, and now this is not happening. And in reality, they had probably like a typo, or they had a continuity error. And I just needed to like delete all of those comments and leave one.
Mhm.
And say like, this didn't quite make sense to me. Maybe try this.
Yeah. Did you mean X, or this doesn't make sense? It's inconsistent with previous thing. And then I need to mentally move on.
Yeah.
I love what you just said. Did you mean? Sorry, Teresa.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, because that's such a powerful thing. The more you read, the more you learn. Stop and ask. Like, did you mean? That's
Mhm.
such a powerful way to include, because then the author doesn't feel judged, because when you don't take the time to go, did you mean, or did you understand, you're making assumptions about them that can be hurtful, I think.
Very, very much so. Yeah, I like the I always ask, was this intentional?
Yeah.
Because maybe it was. Okay,
And I
not
think
my story.
I think with our first 4 things here that we've covered, I think we can all say, you know, sometimes we've done them, we've been well intentioned, but it happens. However, that leaves our final 5th one.
And this one's the
This
worst.
is the worst. Tell us, Teresa.
It's the mean ones. It's the ones where people are tearing you down. And I'll be blunt, to either make themselves feel better, or because they feel like they are a better writer than you. And they're not trying to help you. They are trying to make themselves feel better. And I think we've all had those. And for our viewers, you're welcome to put that into the comments. You're welcome to come on our Discord, have a therapy session.
Yeah.
Get those out. Those ones stick with you. They do. People get under your skin.
And so for me, I think the comment that sticks with me on this one was, I don't know why anyone would ever read this.
Oh,
Like it's comments like those where that hurts. That's biting. There's no reason to ever, if you are acting in good faith and you are trying to be the, you know, a good version of yourself and help that person tell the best version of their story possible. That's your goal as a critiquer, right? That comment does nothing to help them. It does nothing to help you. It's just hurtful. Those are the comments we mean. The ones that they can't act on, they can't make better or anything like that. They just hurt.
Or where
I
they
would-
nitpick. I think it can be really hurtful when it's like cuts by 1,000 microaggressions. So when we're talking about a writer who thinks they're better than you, then sometimes they'll cut you by like little tiny cuts, and it can even be like subconscious. So like they'll permit one thing in one person's writing, but not in your writing. So like for one person, they'll say like the repetition is good and helpful, but then in your writing, they'll like attack it because you're repetitive, and they'll leave comments like, you know, it's never okay to like be this repetitive. And then you'll literally listen like 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, and they'll be like, oh, I like how you repeated that again. It like brought it home for me. And you can feel like like the juxtaposition in the way they treat one author versus another. And I want to say I've seen this in groups a lot where writers think they're better than a writer, or a writer comes in at a lower level and then they learn to get better. But some of the people in that group don't let them improve, and they keep judging them as if they're inferior. And I know I've read about this on other podcasts where people just say you have to leave the group and start over. Because sometimes the people in your group decide that you're an inferior writer or treat you that way, and they never meet you at that place, and they never see the growth or allow that growth. So every time they pick up your writing, they've decided before they read it that they're not going to like it. And I think as writers, we're sensitive to that, and we can tell. And I just want to give you permission to say, you don't have to stick with that person. You can move on to somebody who appreciates your voice. You can move on to somebody who gives you valid feedback, somebody who enjoys what you write. Like there's no reason, going back to what Molly said, because it was so powerful, there's no reason to have someone like that. Don't put pearls before swine, you know, don't keep handing them your love child and then have them step on it.
Would you like to sample our vegan bacon? 100% meatless.
Yes, please. Another, please.
Go right.
Go right. Take care, you guys.
Bye.